Immigration raids across the country, protests in major cities, the National Guard set to be deployed in Texas, and the military standing by. With all of the fighting and arguing over immigration enforcement, you might be surprised by the results of a study out of Texas. That's right, back in 2006, the state's comptroller commissioned a study that found that undocumented immigrants contributed more economically to the state than they cost it, which certainly seems to undermine this whole argument. Anyway, here it is, that special report, a financial analysis of the impact to the state budget and economy of undocumented immigrants. And yeah, you might be surprised that they found that those immigrants contributed more than $17 billion to the state's gross domestic product, and they produced almost $1.6 billion in state revenues, and only cost the state about $1.16 billion. A net positive. Part of that is because of the major government-sponsored programs that those undocumented immigrants are now eligible for, things like Medicare and Medicaid, food stamps, or public housing assistance. And some other recent studies have backed up those findings, like this one from 2015 that showed that immigrants of all stripes contributed about $100 billion worth of purchasing power. And more than just that, those immigrants make up about a fifth of the labor force in Texas, more than 18% of business owners, and are self-employed at a rate that is almost double natural-born citizens. And how about this study in 2016 from the Perryman Group out of Waco, which argued that Texas needs the workers, those undocumented immigrants. And they looked at things like the net direct economic benefits by having undocumented workers here in Texas. And when they broke down things like the tax receipts and the total tax effect and the costs on the federal, state, and local levels, when it was all said and done, that net effect, $32 billion in favor of those undocumented immigrants. And they concluded that the undocumented workforce in the state generates substantial economic activity, and that even when you take away the costs, it is net positive. But I already know what some of you are going to say right now. This is not just an economic discussion. There's also the issue of crime. Except that the Department of Justice found just the opposite. Undocumented immigrants commit crimes at a far lower rate than natural-born U.S. citizens. This graph shows just how big of a difference between total felonies and violent crimes. Natural-born U.S. citizens, registered immigrants, and then undocumented immigrants way down here. And what's especially interesting about this data is it has been on the Department of Justice's website for years, up until the inauguration of the new administration back in January, when the webpage disappeared from the Department of Justice's website. Was that because this data does not agree with the idea that we've got to mass deport all undocumented immigrants? I don't know, but it certainly begs the question of whether or not this is all about numbers or something else.